on this Education Amendment Bill 2009, and I have to say I'm disappointed that the Minister hasn't risen to her feet to respond to the very legitimate concerns that my colleague Trevor Mallard has raised with regard to the title of this bill. And in fact, I look across the chamber to Mr Alan Peachy, and I'm sure that had he been sitting in the chair as the Minister, he would have taken a call and clarified this issue. He would not have let this sloppy process continue of passing an amendment bill dated in 2009, despite the fact that we are now nearly through the fourth month. We're nearly a full third of the way through the year of 2010. And I don't think that Alan Peachy would have let the government get away with this. I think that he would have much higher standards than that. And certainly that's the feedback that I've had from my colleagues who sit on the Education and Science Select Committee. And I refer in particular, for example, to the Standing Orders 307, verbal or formal amendments. In preparing the bill for the royal assent, which comes under Part 2, of course, that this bill will come into force once it's received the royal assent. In preparing the bill for royal assent, amendments of a verbal or formal nature may be made and clerical or typographical errors may be corrected in any part of the bill by the clerk. Now, the issue there would this particular problem that we have raised be a clerical or typographical error, particularly given that it has been brought to the attention of the House prior to a vote being taken on this particular part of the bill. So could it be regarded as clerical or simply a minor amendment, typographical error, if the House already knew about it when it voted on it? So this is actually quite a significant issue that my colleague Trevor Mallard has raised, because is it appropriate? For example, and what would the consequences be were this to be changed to the Education Amendment Act 2010 after the House had voted on it, knowing that it was voting on something that was not strictly speaking correct? Would there be consequences for somebody who then changed that, arguing as it was that it was clerical or typographical, if in fact the House had known that there was this problem when it voted on it? There could be some reasonably significant issues with that, Mr Speaker. So I think it's a shame that the Minister hasn't taken the opportunity. It's a relatively small amendment. In fact, I could probably talk for the length of time it would take her to handwrite an amendment that we could then vote on. As a matter of fact, I'm happy to keep going, to give her the time to write out an amendment. It won't take her very long. Well, it might take her a while, actually, but Trevor Mallard has done it. So, in fact, we can vote on an amendment to change this to the Education Amendment Act 2010, which would be a very sensible thing to do, because it would be we are from the opposition and we are here to help, because it would be very unwise for this House to be going ahead and passing legislation with factual inaccuracies in it right from the very beginning. We're talking about the very first line of the bill. And I've got to speak for a few more minutes because Trevor Mallard apparently has to produce 6 copies of the amendment before we're allowed to vote on it. So I'll do my best. I'll give it a go. I'll give it a go by going back to the issue of the royal assent, because I know that the second part of this, the title and commencement, is of course the commencement. This Act comes into force on the day after the date on which it receives the royal assent. Now, commencement dates are something that select committees will discuss quite a lot. I've been involved in all sorts of discussions about when it's appropriate for law to come into effect, because the Regulations Review Committee, in fact, have produced an entire report on this very issue, the dates at which legislation should come into effect. And the Regulations Review Committee have made recommendations around making sure that it's clear within the bill when they can come into effect. And of course now there's the King, one of the Kings, I can't remember which one it was, particular clause, which is it King James clause? No, I don't think it's the King James. I can't remember which king it is. But basically that says that we should not, where possible, write into the commencement of a bill that it comes into force at ministerial prerogative or at royal, or that there be some discretion in there, because Parliament ultimately is it the Annex King clause? My colleague Darren Hughes is asking. I'm not sure. I don't want to speculate on that too much. That could be career limiting for me. But
point of order, on Chris.
Mr. Chair, I want to bring you to the General Procedures Clause 107.2, which brings into light the point where a member persists in irrelevance or tedious repetition either of the members' own arguments or arguments used by other members in the debate. I think we've been over this issue over and over again. It is out of order, I believe, Mr Chair, and I asked you to stop this member and ask him to desist from this.
Point of order.
I'll take Honourable Trevor Miller.
Well, Mr Chairman, I was out of the House for about a minute and a half doing some photocopying. But sir, I think we're only on the third call of what is an important issue. We're on the fourth call of an important issue. There really only needed to be one call, and if there's an indication that the amendment had been accepted, I'm sure we'd only have 4 or 5 more calls in order to get through into the next day. I know there's a lot of debate here. We know that it would be. Maybe I'm wondering. In fact, I wonder. Seeing we've had no reply from the minister, what we're going to do after this is that I think I'm going to ask for this to be recalled in order.
This isn't part of the point of order that I was hearing the member. The member is discussing matters. Sit down, please. I'm on my feet. Right. I'm going to overrule the point of order that was raised on this occasion. Chris Hipkins.
Thank you very much, Mr. As I was talking, in fact, I believe I'm the first member in this part of the debate to talk about the commencement and the importance of the commencement date and some of the considerations around the commencement date. Alternative commencement dates, of course, is something that could... Mr. Chairman?
Point of order. Honourable Trevor Miller.
Mr Chairman, I move that the Speaker be recalled in order to rule on the question of whether the change of date is something which is a clerical error that can be corrected by the clerk's office, or whether an amendment is necessary.
Well, the member has moved, and I'm bound to do that, but I have to say that the member has not asked the chair for a ruling on that.
Oh, well, sorry. Point of order. I apologise for my prematurity.
So what are you intending to do?
Well, so the question on which I would like you to rule is whether the changing of the date is a matter of clerical or administrative, or I forget the wording under the particular section that the 307, that whether it's clerical or typographical and can be corrected. I'm working on the assumption that it's not, but I'd like your opinion, and then we can see then.
I'm happy to say this is not a matter normally that the chair would rule upon, but a bill normally reflects the date of introduction, and it is not unusual for a bill to go through its passage up to the committee stage, still retaining a date that may be from a year previous. That is not unusual, and Standing Order 307 does have that provision which Mr Hipkins said. That is when those anomalies are clarified when the bill is printed. Does the member still want to call the Speaker?
Further point of order.
Further point of order.
And it goes to that, sir. I think none of us are suggesting that the bill should have been reprinted at this point. I think the question is whether it is automatic as we move to the third reading, whether we're going to get a reprint of the bill with the correct with the 2010 date in at that stage, or whether there is the power on the clerk's office to amend the bill on the way to the royal assent. The minister's nodded her head at both, and she's if we had a ruling that from someone that was going to occur, we would have been finished here about 25 minutes ago, I think. But my question is it an automatic process?
Right. Let me respond. It is a normal practice, or a standard feature of a bill, that normally it is adjusted when the bill is sent for royal assent. That is the normal process. Right. Chris Tremaine, another point of order? Yours was not a point of order, it was a call?
I'm raising a point of order.
Raise point of order.
Point of order in anticipation of the Honourable Trevor Mallard's point of order he'd signalled to you about a motion of recall, sir. And it seems to me, if you could advise the committee, at what point in this debate, entitlement commencement, which could have been finished a long time ago, I've come down to the House surprised we are still actually on this. This bill could be completed by now. But whether or not, at what point the Minister is able to clear the whole thing up by putting in an SOP herself or an amendment herself, that would guillotine the need for Mr Mallard's motion. And it seems if she stood up and took a 10-second call, said that was what her intention was, at what point